today, does the Biden administration not go and arrest every one of these criminals and deport them? What rational world says America's better off with more criminals? And these are not just statistics. Ms. Moran, thank you for being here. And she's not with us today. She was raped and murdered because this administration chose to release a violent criminal into America. Your daughter should still be alive. And every one of these victims should still be alive. Laken Riley, a name that the Democrats on this committee can't bring themselves to utter, should still be alive. And in my hometown of Houston, Jocelyn Nungry, I've gotten to know Jocelyn's mother, Alexis, very well. Ms. Moran, like you, Alexis is incredibly brave. I cannot imagine the pain. I'm a father. To lose your child, no parent should have to bury their child. Children should bury their parents, not the other way around. It is wrong what happened to you. But I want to say to you, thank you for having the courage to tell Rachel's story. I would understand if you just curled up in a ball and cried. But, and I'm sure you have wept a lot of tears. But thank you for having the courage to tell Rachel's story. And I want to say, if there is anything that is a mandate from this election, it is to end this insanity, stop these murders, stop these rapes, stop these assaults, protect our citizens. And Ms. Moran, I just want to give you the opportunity at the end of my questioning to share from your perspective why this matters, why we should stop releasing criminals into America.
I have to say, I'm kind of amazed that we're holding this hearing. To me, it's remarkable that the idea of actually, as you were just saying, Ms. Moran, the idea of enforcing our laws, protecting our border, securing our streets from criminals, it's amazing that that's controversial at all. And it says something a lot about the other side of the dais that we're having this hearing today. Let me just ask you, Mr. Reichlin-Melnick, I mean, is it really such a bad idea to deport people like the criminal who killed this young man? This is Travis Wolf. He was 12 years old when he was killed. He was mowed down, and I do mean mowed down, in a car by an illegal immigrant, 12 years of age, walking along a sidewalk in my state of Missouri, mowed down by an illegal immigrant who I think also had a prior criminal record. Is it such a bad idea to deport the person who killed him?
Any person who commits a heinous crime should suffer the consequences under the law.
Good. What about Officer David Lee? Officer David Lee was killed in Missouri just a few months ago by another illegal immigrant, once again in a car, who used it as a lethal weapon to ram him and kill him. Is it so wrong, such a bad idea to deport the illegal immigrant who killed this good man?
Again, any person who commits an awful act should face the full force of the law.
We've had multiple stabbings in the state of Missouri at laundromats in O'Fallon, Missouri, where innocent civilians were going to do their laundry of an evening and were attacked with knives, slashed, bled, stomped upon. Should the illegals who did that, should they not be deported?
No, as I said, if you commit an offense, you should face consequences. But the overwhelming majority of the 13 million people here today
We've had officers assaulted in Kansas City on the other side of the state who have been assaulted by illegal immigrants. One officer required over 100 stitches to the head, a police officer, earlier this year. Should the illegal immigrant who did that not be deported?
Again, they should face the consequences of the law, but they are a very small minority of the population that President Trump is promising to deport.
Well, let's talk about the rest of the people who you don't want to be deported. You said in an article that you wrote recently New report shows devastating costs of mass deportation. You wrote this in October. Do you remember this piece?
Yes, that is a summary of our report that we published
so
in
in this
October.
piece, and it's also in your written testimony, you talk about how much the economy will lose if the United States actually enforces our immigration laws and deports folks who are here illegally. And I want to quote you now. You say some industries would be particularly hard hit, including construction, agriculture, and hospitality, which combined would lose more than 2.5 million workers. What's the argument here, that there aren't American workers who are available to do those jobs?
No, and as I said previously, there likely are, but the issue is that
And you don't want their wages to rise?
I think that we want to pass a path to citizenship so we can have a level and fair playing field for every American.
Why would you want American citizens and those who are here lawfully to have to compete against illegal immigrants who, by the way, are often paid not minimum wage, who are not given the federally mandated benefits precisely because they're here illegally? Why would you want to drive down the wages of millions of working Americans who can't get those jobs in construction, agriculture, and hospitality because illegal immigrants are getting them? Suppressing wages in the meantime. Why would you want to do that?
Well, if you'd been here for my initial testimony, you'd know I don't want that.
Listen, I read your testimony word for word, and I've been watching it, and I know what the answer is. You don't actually care about working people because you're absolutely hell-bent on this ideological agenda of opening our border. You want to give everybody who's here a path to citizenship. You want blanket amnesty. You talk about mass deportations. That's your word, not Trump's. You want mass amnesty, right? It's right here in your testimony.
We want a path to citizenship for people who pass a background check, who pay a fine.
That's amnesty, who you just said there's millions of people, 13 million people. Right, 13 million people you want to dump into the labor force.
They are already
who will drive
in the labor force,
illegally.
Senator.
They're here,
yes.
taking jobs from American citizens. And so, perfect.
This.
So here's your plan. So just if you're wondering, America, here's the Democrats' plan. Take the 13 million plus illegals who are here, taking jobs from Americans, taking wages down, taking health care benefits, and bring them here legally so that they can continue to drive down wages, flood the labor force, and suppress
Senator
all of
Hawley,
the above.
They can't flood the labor force if they're already part of the labor force, which is
they
the
are
economic
flooding the
issue
labor
today.
force now. That's what's happening now. Why do you think wages
have been here for over 15 years. Many millions have been here since the Reagan
And what has happened to working class
administration.
wages in that time, Mr. Reichlin-Melnick?
Working class wages are currently going up. Yes.
Oh, really? They've gone up over the last
year.
15 years?
Over the last 15 years, I will have to consult the economists on that matter.
Yeah, they're down, way down. What world do you live in? Listen, here's the deal. The American people just voted. The American people just voted. You know what? It's my time, not yours. So you're here to answer my questions, not to offer a soliloquy. And let me just end with this. The American people just got a good look at your economic program, and they voted against it. We've had an open border for the last 4 years. We have had de facto amnesty, as you yourself just said, for the last 15 plus years. It has been a disaster. People have died because of it. Wages are lower because of it. Our streets are in chaos because of it. And now you and the Democrat Party just say more of the same, more of the same. Let's double down. I would just say to you, I think that's insanity. I think it's total insanity, and the American people do too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Arthur, you are with the Center for Immigration Studies, is that right?
That's correct, Senator.
And that's a nonpartisan think tank, is it?
It is, sir.
Okay. The border is an open, bleeding wound, isn't it?
That's a fair way to characterize what's been going on for the last 4 years, sir.
The southern border is chaotic by design, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I've been covering the border for 3 decades, and yeah, it's pretty chaotic.
Would it be fair to say that the broken southern border is man-made?
It would be fair to say that, sir, based on policies that have been implemented.
And that man's name is Joe Biden, isn't it?
That would be a fair assessment, yes, Senator.
Under President Biden, if you wait in line for legal immigration, you're a chump, aren't you?
When you look at the benefits that have been given to people and the speed at which they've been released into the United States, I would be chagrined if I were waiting.
You're a chump, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
General,
Yes,
you
Senator.
believe in open borders, don't you?
I believe in the rule of law, sir.
All right. And it makes you angry that President Trump does not believe in open borders, doesn't it?
Senator, I'm not here to discuss immigration policy. I'm here to discuss whether or not we use the military to enforce it.
And it makes you angry that most Americans don't believe in open borders, doesn't it?
Not in the slightest, sir. Again, I am not here to discuss the immigration policy.
Yeah. Duty, honor, respect, you talked about that
Yes,
in your
Senator.
opening statement. On October 14th of this year, you went on CNN. I want to read you what you said, make sure I'm accurate. Here's what you said. President Trump is not like any sane leader. I'm very proud of General Milley for saying that President Trump is a total fascist. To Bob Woodward, if he, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is calling the president a fascist, I'm so proud of him for breaking that barrier. The challenge is because most MAGA Republicans, they don't understand what fascism is. The reality is that they are, in fact, fascists themselves. Did I read that accurately?
Senator, I am happy to discuss my personal perspectives with you separately at any time. That's not the purpose of the hearing today.
Did I read that accurately?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. You think you're smarter than the American people, don't you?
Absolutely not, Senator. I am here to discuss the use of the military as part of this mass deportation.
You think you're more virtuous than the American people, don't you, General?
Senator, I am insulted by your comment.
Duty, honor, and respect. You talked about that in your opening statement, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Moran said, I wrote down her words. She said, by their actions, you know what someone's character is like. You agree with that?
Senator, for 35 years, I served my country with absolute honor and distinction, and I will continue to do so.
You agree with what Ms. Moran said?
Of course.
Mr., we've got a few minutes left.
23 seconds.
Well, actually, you let Ms. Klobuchar go well over, so I'm assuming you'll extend me the
I'll
same.
give you the
courtesy.
same minute I gave to her.
You gave it a minute 20. I timed it.
You're using.
I watched you
using
like a hawk, Dick. Mr. Melnick, Mr. Reichlin Melnick, you believe in open borders too, don't you?
I do not, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay. On November 1st, 2022, you tweeted, both Texas and Louisiana have their knives out for black immigrants. Do you remember that tweet?
I don't, but it's quite possible.
What Texans, it's not only possible, it happened. You're not denying it, are you?
No, I'm saying, referring
What
to the
Texans?
context.
Who
I
are you
actually
talking
don't
to?
know the
Who
context.
are you talking to about who in Texas had their knives out for black immigrants?
Guessing the context, but my suspicion is
Give
that
me
it
a
has to
name.
do the
Give me a
Attorney
name.
General Ken Paxton and
Give
the
me a
Attorney
name.
General of
Give me a
Louisiana.
name.
I just did.
You don't have a name, do you?
I just said Ken Paxton.
You don't have a name, do you? You just said it, did you?
Just said Ken Paxton.
All right, how about Louisiana? You said Louisiana has its knives out for black immigrants. Who in Louisiana were you talking about?
Again, I'm not certain. That was 2 years ago, and as I'm sure you know, much has happened in the last 2 years.
Well, did you say it?
Again, I do not remember the context,
But you don't.
Senator
You
Kennedy.
said somebody had their knives out from Louisiana for black immigrants, but you don't know who they were? You just said it?
I said the Attorney General of Louisiana and Texas, and I believe this referred to specifically lawsuits brought and arguments that were made in court that the arrival of Haitians
I'm out
and
of time,
others
but I
were
want to get you
inherently
on the
dangerous,
record.
which was
You
not.
Thank you very much, Senator.
believe
Appreciate
that the
your
Attorney
questions.
General at that time of Louisiana had his knives out for black immigrants. That's your testimony.
Given their
Thank you,
litigation
Senator Kennedy.
conduct, yes.
Does anybody disagree with the following statement? America has a right to limit how many people can come into our country.
No.
Nobody disagrees with that. Good. Mr. Toure, very successful life. You have much to be proud of. During the 4 years of the Trump administration, were you ever, anybody suggest you should be deported?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. No.
Okay. Do you support deporting the 1.2 million people who have been through the system, have a final order of removal? Do you support them leaving?
Senator, I'm a prosecutor. I go after.
No, I didn't ask you if you're a prosecutor. Do you support them leaving?
I support people that have committed serious crimes.
Do you support the people who have gone through the system, been denied, had their day in court, final order of removal? Do you support them leaving?
If you have
As a
committed
prosecutor, as a rule of law person?
if you have committed a serious crime in this country,
That's not the question. So is it your belief that every non-criminal in the world can come to America?
No.
How many people want to come to America that are non-criminals? Probably hundreds of millions, and I understand why. It's a great country. So my point is, if you're not willing to say that we're going to deport you after you've had your full day in court, you're facing a final order of deportation, we're going to incentivize people to come forever. Mr. Melnick, is that right? How many people did Ronald Reagan provide amnesty to?
Estimates are roughly 2.7 to 3 million.
How many illegal immigrants are in the country today?
I said roughly 13 million, although we don't know the exact
I would say
estimates.
that the last thing we want to do is give amnesty to people here now because we'll be overrun. Mr. Arthur, would you describe the last 4 years as mass illegal immigration coming to our borders?
I believe that that's fair characterization, Senator.
Does anybody disagree that the last 4 years has resulted in mass illegal immigration directed toward America? Because if this is not mass, what the hell would be? Now, how do you answer mass illegal immigration? You start enforcing the laws, Ms. Moran said, and you start sending people back who've had their day in court. You can't answer the question, and I respect you. You've been able to take the opportunity to make something of yourself, but we're passing on just constant disorder. If you can't say you should be deported after you've had a full hearing, everything been available to, and you lose, and it's hard to say you need to go, we don't have an immigration system. General, how many people have been deployed to the border by governors to assist in border security from the National Guard?